Morning, guys. Today, Wayne Dyer reminds us of the power and control of our mind and how important it is. And he shares with us his wisdom of, as you think, so shall you be. So this one is everything for me. This is my passion. I love and am fascinated and am obsessed with the power of the human mind because I know that whatever goes on in here will manifest itself out here. And so we have to remember that. And once we understand how powerful our thoughts are, we will guard very carefully what thoughts we allow into our minds. And it's a challenge. It's a thing that's not going to come overnight. It's going to take a lot of time. But you will see amazing changes. So if you can remember, as you think, so shall you be, it will start to transform your life. And that's why I'm so passionate about filling our minds with positive thought energy. Hope this helps everyone. Have a great morning.
So what if your parents don't support you? Who cares if your team doesn't support you? Who cares if your friends think you're crazy? Who cares if nobody in this world sees your dream? It is not your parents or your professors or your peers or the world's job to support your dream. That's your dream. That dream was sowed into your heart. That dream was given to you to nurture, to protect, to fulfill. It's not somebody else's job. So if your parents don't like your idea, you don't have to live your life to please just your parents. If your friends think you're crazy, it's not your job to make all of your friends think that you're sane. If your professors or the people in your community think, oh my gosh, you're just reckless and crazy and stupid, it's not your job to prove that you're smart to them. Your job is to fulfill that heart's desire. Your job is to fulfill that part of you that is begging you and pleading you to follow your dreams, to follow your heart, to create your thing. So first and foremost, don't think that it is everybody else's job to support you. It's not everybody else's job to cheer you on, to give you money, to invest in you, to pat you on the back every time you walk into your house at night and you did a good job. It's okay that other people have a different vision for themselves than you do. Just like you don't need to judge other people because you don't like their dreams, their desires, or the way they live their life or do their 9 to 5, then you shouldn't worry if they judge yours. And that's the first thing I always tell people is it is not other people's responsibilities to support you or to believe in you. And I know that. You know, when I wrote my first book, no one believed me. I quit my 9 to 5 job and everyone goes, well, you're so crazy to quit this job. Who are you to be a writer? You're a dumb kid. It's true, who was I to be a writer? But I didn't worry what other people thought or if their judgment was approval for me to go ahead. In my heart, I knew I wanted to write. I wanted to create. And that desire was what I listened to, not other people's judgments or opinions. And remember, most other people's opinions are completely uninformed opinions about you. So I say, first and foremost, own your dream. It's yours, your job to cultivate. It's okay if nobody else believes you. I also think it's really important to realize that you often get more believers the more momentum you get. So stop just talking about this thing. You know, maybe you've been talking about something for 3 months, 5 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years. You're gonna go do that thing, you're gonna do that thing, you're gonna do that thing, but you don't do it. That's why you get a lot of doubters, is because a lot of people just talk and they talk and they talk and they talk, but they're not implementing. The more you implement, the more believers you get, but also the more implement you do, the more haters you gather. Because people start going, well, I wish I could do that, or who do you think you are? And so guess what? The more you follow your dreams, often the more judgment you're gonna get too. You'll get more believers and more judgment. So if you don't deal with that fact that most people won't support you, cheer you on, understand you, believe in you, then as you get more successful, you'll be crushed. Because you'll feel rejected, you'll feel outed, you'll feel like you're stupid, you'll feel like this is the time right now where you go, okay, I can no longer let other people's opinions and judgments and approval drive me. My art, my passion, my hobbies, my dreams, those things fuel me, not other people. That's so paramount. If you can't limit your exposure to them, then change how you react to it. You don't have to accept their energy. You don't have to integrate their criticism. You don't have to pull into your body, into your heart, into your mind, into your soul, their value judgments against you. You don't have to replay their words in your mind over and over and over again. As I've written 6 books now, I have been surrounded by so many critics and so many judgments. You know, we have 200 million video views on my videos online. Guess what? A lot of the people were haters. But instead of seeing them and getting angry about it, I just see it and it's like, it doesn't affect me anymore. Part of maturity is getting to that point where you can see criticism and see hatred and not make it your own. Not make it about your identity, to allow other people's opinions and judgments to live out there, because they're not going to go away. You need to accept that. The criticisms, the judgments, the hatred, it's not going away. You'll probably only hear more of it as you grow, even as you get more fame or more people liking you or more people accepting you or you get promoted. People ultimately will support you as you get momentum, but people will still hate you. So if you don't deal with it now, if you don't make a switch in your mind that says, either I'm gonna limit my exposure to them or I'm gonna change how I react to them, you will always be slave to other people's opinions, and that is not a life of freedom that you want to live.
At some point, you have to decide whose life you're living. Are you living your version of your life, or are you living your parents' version of your life, or your friend's version of your life, or your community's version of your life, or society's version of your life? See, everybody has a goal for you, right? Everybody has an idea of what you should do with your life. Everybody has an opinion on how you should be, who you should marry, what job you should take on, how many kids you should have, you know, what profession to get into, what country to live in. Everybody's got an opinion on what you should do with your life. And when you are not standing on a rock solid foundation, what ends up happening is you get pulled in a million different directions. Like, there is no way that you're gonna make everybody happy. There's no way, because there's different competing opinions. And so if you're trying to make this group happy, and then that group happy, and then this group happy, and that group happy, you end up making nobody happy. And worst of all, you're not happy. The biggest problem of all is that you're not happy. I had somebody message me on Instagram the other day saying that they want to chase down their aspirational dreams, be an entrepreneur, but their parents won't let them. Like, okay. Well, at some point you have to decide, when are you living your life? And when are you living your parents' version of your life? And what that requires is you getting off the payroll, right? If you want to live your life, but you're living under their roof, that's a problem, right? When do you stand up for yourself? And maybe if you're 13 years old, that's too young. Maybe you can't do it. Maybe that's not possible, right? But is it at 16? Is it at 18? Is it at 20? Is it at 24? Is it at 32? Is it at 46? Like, it's people in their 50s still living the life that their parents want for them instead of the life that they want for them. Or again, their community, their partner, or the people around them, society. You're not living your version of your life. And so how do we fix it? How do you gain the courage? How do you gain the strength? How do you get the momentum? I'm gonna give you a couple strategies that I hope will help. Number one is to figure out your who. What's your single most important core value? I wrote a book called Your One Word and another one called Built to Serve. And the first exercise that I guide people through is to figure out, what is your single most important core value? What do you stand for as a human? You know? And you can read the books to dive in deeper, but if you just thought about it, spent 2 seconds and thought about it, close your eyes and ask yourself, what is my single most important core value as a human? What is it? And then from there, you gain a new sense of strength and courage, because mine is belief, right? So if you look at mine, believe, well, I need to then do things that are in accordance with belief. Whenever I'm not happy, whenever I'm not bold, whenever I'm feeling down, it's because there's a lack of belief somewhere in my life. Because I want to be doing something, but I'm not. I don't believe in myself, or I don't believe in the thing that I'm doing. It adds a level of clarity that I didn't have before. So what's yours? What's your single most important core value? You know, what do you stand for as a human? And don't worry about it being perfect, but if you're not happy right now, if your most important core value is freedom, and you are feeling trapped under somebody else's rules, you're not gonna be happy. You know why? Because your most important value is freedom, right? It just makes sense. So identify what that core value is, because it'll help you make better decisions. It gives you the rock to stand on instead of standing on quicksand. If you're being pulled in a million different directions by other people and their agenda for your time, it's because you do not have that rock. You know something is wrong. You know you're sinking, but you don't know why. And you don't know how to stand strong. This is it. Your single most important core value. Figure out your who. That's step number one. Step number two is, once you figure out your who, we need to start to limit access or cut out the things that make us feel against that. So if my who is believe, then anything that makes me feel a lack of belief, I want to stop spending time with. I want to unsubscribe from the channels that make me feel less than. I want to stop spending time with friends who pull me down. I want to dedicate myself to not being around the negativity. You know, think about the last time you scrolled through Instagram or you're scrolling through YouTube. How many of the videos and piece of content that you watched made you feel better about yourself, right? Like, did it make you feel better about yourself or worse about yourself? That's an important question. Thank you. Did it make you feel better about yourself or worse about yourself? And if it's worse about yourself, if you just found yourself scrolling for 40 minutes through Instagram and now you feel like a loser, it's not Instagram's problem. It's not the platform's fault. It's the people that you're following. Stop following the people who make you feel worse about yourself. How do you know? Well, you have an audit, right? Now that you know your single most important core value, you have a gauge. So for me, does this person that I'm subscribed to or following make me feel more or less believe? Cool. That becomes an easy decision on what to do next, right? Then you go to the people in your life, your friends, your family. Do these people make me feel more or less believe? For me, right? Insert your word for you. Cool. Less, stop spending time with them. Maybe completely cut off access. Or if it's, you know, your parents or somebody really close to you, then put up walls over the things that you will talk about. Limit access. You may not go to the extreme of completely cutting the person out of your life, but at least limiting access so that you don't wake up every day and feel terrible, right? I think that stuff matters. So step number one is we're gonna figure out our most important core value. What's your who, right? Step number two is then we're gonna restrict access or cut off the people, the things that we're feeding into our mind that make us feel worse about ourselves. And then three is we need to inject new great things into our lives. We need to inject new positive, amazing people into our lives, right? People who make you feel your core value, belief, for me, right? So I make my videos still for myself. The videos on my channel, I want to watch for myself. And thankfully, you guys like it enough that I can turn it into a business, bring on an amazing team, and help go off and inspire even more people. But it's a conscious choice. You know, most of us wake up like an accident and fall into our day. And it's time to make a conscious choice to shift that, to say, no. Instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be really intentional with who I'm spending my time with, what I'm feeding into my mind, because that'll make a giant difference in how you show up. If you're constantly around negativity, distraction, pessimism, it's not that you can't show up and be great, it's just you're making things 1,000 times harder for yourself. Versus, and you know, you felt it when you're around people or you're in the environment where you feel bold and powerful and unstoppable and you can do anything. Guess what? You go off and you start doing amazing things that you never thought you were capable of. And so that's the key difference. You have to protect your dream. You have to realize that everybody has that dream for you, and it's not really for you, it's mostly for them, right? It's like they gave up on their dreams, they never chased down their goals, and so now they're putting all their hopes on you. They want you to go live the life that they never had. But that's not a fair burden to carry, because you don't want their life. You don't want the same things that they want. That's not what you want to do. And so if you can go through that process and recognize that, yes, you have Michael Jordan level genius at something, right? You have Michael Jordan level genius at something. You can be great. And it's probably not doing the things that your parents wanted you to do, or your family, your community, what you grew up learning in school. It's probably something completely different. And when you can figure out your most important core value, when you can completely eliminate or cut off access to the people, the things that bring you down, and we can inject the positivity into your life on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, it'll change everything. Everything. Time to get to work.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Sometimes achievement is not the problem.
Good afternoon, guys. I remember Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich saying that the greatest richness we can ever have is what we are. It's not what we have, it's what we are. And it's so true. So if we can think of ourselves as that source of richness, and every decision, every thought we choose to allow to occupy our mind will affect the richness that we become. That energy, that source of richness. We have the power to change ourselves and to have our life be everything that we are, because we're that magnet. We're that magnet that will attract the things and circumstances in our life that we wish to have, but we have to be that. We have to work so hard to be that richness. And that means filling our minds with positive thought energy, endless positive thought energy. Hope this helps, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
My biggest spurts of growth came through community. And my biggest downfalls have come through community. So when I was a little kid, I would be hanging around with people that were doing drugs, selling drugs, fighting, stealing, breaking into homes. So guess what I was doing? The pattern is actually the thing that's taking life away from you. Every time this guy opens his mouth, I'm like, dang.
Oh my goodness.
Yo, I didn't know you were gonna click that thing for us to go live.
Well, you manifested it, man. You clicked it and here we are.
Let's do it.
So Garen's been a long time friend of the channel, and he's been on YouTube, my channel, a couple times. And I met him recently in Arizona. He's part of Genius Network. How was that first session for you, man?
It was so weird because we've connected, we've spoken. It was like FaceTime. It was like I was being interviewed by you, and then meeting you in the first time. It was like I knew you for a long time, but I was like, oh yeah, we haven't met in person. But honestly, the Genius Network was really awesome because a lot of people doing big things in the world, and everybody was just there to share and being a witness to other people sharing. So I loved it.
What made you want to not even just join Genius, but what made you want to join another group of entrepreneurs or even give it a shot?
You know, some of the biggest, my biggest spurts of growth came through community. And my biggest downfalls have come through community. Like whatever community I was hanging around the most, I tend to do what they do. So when I was a little kid, I would be hanging around with people that were doing drugs, selling drugs, fighting, stealing, breaking into homes. So guess what I was doing? Selling drugs. I never did drugs, but I sold drugs, fighting, stealing, and I did very well. So once I found a health and wellness community, I started doing what they were doing. Personal development, transformation, learning about emotional intelligence, and eating well. Lost 35 pounds, put on 19 pounds of muscle, and 10 years later, at age 42 years young, I'm still thriving strong. Then I got in groups of high thriving community people that are building productivity, building generational wealth, building themselves up. And every group that I associate myself with and lean in, I tend to do what they do. So this new community where I just met you, Genius Network, there were people that are doing in different areas. I wouldn't say way more than what I'm doing, because when it comes to the heart and energy,
Let's go.
there with the best of them. But as far as like business, like you with the YouTube, I barely have any YouTubes. And, you know, like there's so many people that are doing certain things that I'm interested in at levels that they're pre-calculus and I'm ABCs. But if I associate myself with this group, I tend to do what they do, if not better, or at least I'm playing in the same energy or frequency.
So every time I go, and that was the first time I'd been in person in a while, every time I go, I end up coming away feeling just with higher standards. Like, man, I'm doing great, and I got to be playing at a higher level. You know, there's so much more that I'm capable of doing, and being around high level entrepreneurs is always kind of reinforces that. What was your biggest takeaway from the group?
Honestly, man, there were two things. It was something you said, which I'll tell you last. And then there was something it was that guy, Nick. What's Nick Stevenson or something like that? The Bitcoin guy.
Yeah, I know.
Nick says people are always trying to focus on bettering their best. And I've even tried to do that. I was like, I'm going to outdo myself. And I'm going to outdo He was like, man, that's so hard. But if you better your worst, if you look at areas in your life and you become a little bit better in the worst areas, you make everything else better. And I was like, yo, that's actually more feasible in my mind. And it blew me away of how I can look at areas of my life where, let's say YouTube, this is where you come into play.
Let's go.
My most strongest feature when it comes to serving humans, number one is in person. Yeah, Nick Peterson.
I knew it wasn't Stevenson, but it's like you planted it in my head and I couldn't think of what it was. So Nick Peterson.
Yeah. So my most strongest asset when it comes to connecting with humans, one is in person. In person, like I have a retreat coming up the weekend of June 10th called the Awaken the Artist Within retreat. It's literally almost sold out. But that right there, me in a retreat space, it's in a whole different dimension, whole different planet. But me on video, me on podcasts, me in commercials, but me on video is a strong asset. I don't have any assets really strong of my own, putting out my own video content. It's on your station, on Impact Theory, and all these other stations. And when you were like, he was like, dude, just do it. And it's not what you said, it's how easy you made it sound. And the last time someone said, man, it's just work, you're gonna work anyways. Last time someone said it like that, I ended up earning $15 million over the next, 9 years in that company. So, and that was early on. But when you said, he was like, just do it. And it was the YouTube. It was the whole YouTube conversation. He was like, don't worry about editing. Don't worry about color correcting. Don't worry about all these different things, which stops me because I'm a creative. And anytime I do things where I'm focused on 9 million other things than being in my genius, I stop and I don't want to do it because it's too difficult. You're like, so don't focus on any of that. Just pull your camera out and just do it. And I was like, I cannot come back with anything smart other than actually doing it. I can't rebuttal that. So that was one of the biggest things that really, really, really hit me. Not get caught in the weeds, be in my genius, and then you just learn over time. And then you hire people to do the things that you don't want to get into the weeds about.
It sounds like we're cooking on a Garen Jones YouTube channel, guys.
Yeah, something's, and I already have, since we spoke, I have 6 videos, and one of them is going out today. So, like, I just pulled my phone out and I just went in.
I love it, man. Also the coaching, right? And when we talk about turning your coaching videos into YouTube videos too, you had a great, I mean, you went live, I think it was even that day. You were in Arizona, you went live, and I saw a couple of your you were talking to the Slingshot. I forget the guy came on and it was just like felt down and out, didn't know what to do and had all this stuff happen to him. And you're like, you know what? Like, it's a slingshot. Just the further back you go, the faster you can shoot forward.
Absolutely.
Like all those are videos for your channel.
Yeah, and that was that was huge for me because I was like, you know what? He was like, what are you selling? I was like, well, I do retreats, I do group coaching, I do one-on-one coaching, but I don't have any of that online. It's just like me talking, saying some slick stuff and things like that. But if anybody saw how I worked with people, how I process people, how when somebody is going through something really deep, traumatic, and how I can allow myself to be accessed and channeled to be a safe space to then put the puzzle pieces together in their nervous system and then walk them back to where they currently are safely and make them feel absolutely, well, they make themselves feel absolutely amazing. And just, I feel like I have so much faith in myself and so much passion. I know what I want to do. I have so much clarity in my life and I have action steps. When I'm around people and I do that, but I don't have anything online that sees me in that. So if people saw the value, I would actually make more than 6 figures a year for one-on-ones and 12 coaching sessions because they would see the value and what would happen into their life.
Joe Polish, who runs Genius Network, likes to, he has a term called return on genius. So like for the investment that you make in the group, what's the return that you get out of it? And it's great when it can be quantified. It's like, hey, you know, being part of that group costs $25K to be in the room. And already from like first meeting, already getting 100K plus idea on what you can do just shows the value of joining groups and being around people who can help elevate your thinking on things that they're great at and maybe a blind spot for you. I love leading with like, what are you selling? So we can tie in what you're selling to help you get more sales. And I think for you, as good as you are talking to camera, I think you're even better talking to humans.
Yeah.
Right? And if we just film that, and you already are filming it, right? I mean, that's the thing with your Instagram lives, you're already filming it. You're already doing coaching. Now just make that into a YouTube video. So it's not just like you have these, if you guys don't know Gary, you should go follow him on Instagram. He does these coaching sessions and he just goes and riffs and then brings random people up. It's not like it's all staged and they know who's going to come on and says, hey, how can I help you? And then they go off talking together. And the problem there is it's like it's a great experience for whoever's live, but then it kind of dies afterwards because nobody's going back on somebody's Instagram lives and seeing what they were doing. But if that was cut into a YouTube video, then that lives forever. And the stuff that you talk about is evergreen stuff that people will still need in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years, right? It's not just like a strategy for right now. So yeah, I mean, even just going back and cutting all those videos, because they're still there, you save them, turn them into YouTube videos, and you start getting a lot more, I mean, yes, a lot more business, but even more, it's like a lot more impact. Like how many people can relate to the people who are being coached by you? It's like, man, that's me. Now we get to spread that to YouTube and the world.
Even the other day when I was talking to somebody that they're business driven. So they got a really successful business, but inside they've always wanted to be a singer. They wanted to be some kind of artist. They wanted to be publicly speak, but they don't have the confidence to do it. So they overcompensate in their business to hide away from the thing that they really want to bring out their authentic expression. So I'm having a coaching call with this person and I said, you know what? I'm actually hosting a 3-day retreat the weekend of June 10th called Awaken the Artist Within. I think you would be perfect. And then they registered that night. But there were other people that were on the live and was like, no, I need that for me. So I ended up from that live registering 6 people from a high ticket retreat that's literally almost sold out. And I haven't even posted on it publicly.
And that's from, you know, a couple hundred people, a couple thousand people, you know, ended up watching that live. Now imagine 40,000 people, 100,000 people, you know, watch it on YouTube. Yeah.
You got me again, bro.
It just keeps going.
Every Every time this guy opens his mouth, I'm like, dang. It's almost like a big brother, even though I'm probably older than him. Yeah. How old are you?
I'm close. I'm 42 on the 20th, so we're right there.
Okay, yeah, we're both okay. You're 41, I'm 42. I'll be 43 in July. So so it's like my big brother, and every time he says something, I'm like, Here's what's beautiful though, and this is what I love about Evan. Evan is smart. Evan is successful. Evan impacts lots of people, but he's not too high on himself to not learn. So when I met him, he gave me the opportunity to share something with him that allows him to grow. And this is how, whenever you can like really hold yourself to a standard and then be not be too big to like learn from somebody. Evan gave me the opportunity to even share some stuff, and I won't put his stuff out there unless he wanted to, but he gave me the opportunity to share my expertise in a way in which he can also level up as well. And if there's anybody out there, find you good people that you can share and be honest and vulnerable with in a moment that will allow you to level up in your own life. And this is something I love, keeping great people in my life. So I just wanted to acknowledge you, Evan, for you're like this highlighted person, and everybody's like, Evan. And you came to me and you're like, listen, I have something too I'd love to share. And I'm like, wide open, baby, let's go.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. And I love kind of pulling back the curtains so people can see what goes into it, that we're all just trying to figure things out. And that I think a lot of times if the expert comes off as kind of too perfect, then you can't relate. So I love being able to share the story. But so inside Genius Network, we had this little hot seat moment where you group up. I think we had 3 or 4 people. I hear Garen yell, "Carmichael!" from the back of the room. It's like, okay, we're doing this. It's going down. And we kind of ran out of time before I got my chance to share my thing. And so I asked Garen, hey man, I got something that I think you'd be uniquely qualified to help me with. I'd love to pick your brain at some point over the next 2 days. It was a 2-day event. And then I think like at the next break, I just came downstairs and found you. And for me, it was a lot of the stuff that we do is so goal-oriented and focused, and where you're going to be in 2 years. And a lot of the tools we're going through are also kind of planning like that. And I wanted to go the opposite way and just trust that good things happen to me, that great things happen to me. And how do I open myself up more to that? And I thought, you know what, if there's one spiritual badass in this room who can answer that question, it's Garen Jones. We got to find that man. Yeah. And then you gave me some great advice. And it's also the willingness to ask for help. You know, like if you find somebody who you think might be able to help, having the courage to go up and say, hey, I've got a question. I think you might be able to give me perspective. And maybe they shut you down, but at least you gave your shot. And you'd be surprised by how often people would give you a couple minutes, and maybe in those couple minutes, something unlocks, you know? I remember like for yours, you came in asking about being intentional with time. And then the first person was like giving you all this advice on how to schedule and how to do all this stuff. And I asked you like, hey, is that what you even want, man? Like you're this creative genius. And he's like, yeah, having schedules and rigidity feels like I'm in prison, right? It's like, exactly. You gotta do your thing. And so sometimes it's easier to kind of see it from the outside, somebody to give you perspective to say, hey, if you just tweak this little mindset shift right here, it can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, man. And I appreciated that too, because I'm an implementer. So as soon as I have awareness of something, I'm like, man, the results already showed up, because I embody the lesson instead of be like, oh yeah, I got it, and do nothing with it. So I appreciate you for taking the time.
So
Good evening, guys. One of the things that I've always had a challenge with, and I'm not sure if this has happened to you, but I thought I'd share this as we live, laugh, and love our way to infinite mind wealth. And that is when we've made a mistake. If you've made a mistake, you yourself know We all know the truth about ourselves. We all know what we really are deep down inside. We know when we've made a mistake. And so when we have people constantly remind us of those mistakes or be really negative and hard on ourselves, it can be very frustrating. But if we remember and we know the truth of who we really are, and we're comfortable with the fact that we can make mistakes, laugh at them, and then learn from them and move on, then nothing outside of us can affect us in terms of bringing us to a lower negative state. It's a hard thing, but I just know that we have to be the ones to accept the truth of who we are and then move on. Have a great evening, everyone.
Need motivation? Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, John Assaraf, and my take on his top 50 rules of success. Enjoy.
I often say that there's only 4 things that are holding you back as a human being. Only 4. There's not 25, there's 4 that are the core. 1 is if your vision and goal is bigger than your self-image. Okay? So if you feel you deserve it, you can have this vision and goal and be excited about it and motivated about it. You will not do what it takes to achieve it. 1. 2, if you have limiting beliefs. If you have a vision and goal, but you have a limiting belief that you're too young, too old, whatever the case is, your limiting beliefs will drive your behavior. 3, fear. Fear of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged. Fear of failure, fear of disappointment. And we'll talk about disappointment in a moment, or fear of succeeding and failing again. Disappointment. And then the 4th one, by the way, is you're lacking the knowledge and skill required. So that actually sets up a self-doubt trigger, which activates the Frankenstein brain, which causes you to lose motivation. But most people prefer to master disappointment and comfort zones instead of mastering change. Wow. So if I master disappointment, I know what I got. I just have to deal with, well, okay, this is what I got. And if I master my comfort zone, then at least this is the devil I know.
Yes.
Versus mastering change, and we know what's going on in our brain. We know what's happening neurologically, biologically, emotionally, physically, and all of that is a skill. It's just a skill. So why not just master change? Why not become an adaptationist right now in the time that you need it the most in the world? Because if you don't, then you're just going to keep repeating the same patterns that are going to get reinforced, and it makes it harder in 3 months, 6 months, and 6 years. So master change now and make that one of your core competencies, and then you master your life.
We think about what is a limiting belief. Like from a neuroscience perspective, when a neuroanatomist looks in your brain, right, they can't see, oh, here's the limiting belief pattern between here and here. But we do know that a limiting belief is nothing more than a neural network, a pattern in the brain. The marble's connected, right? And if they've connected and have been reinforced often enough and strongly enough, they become part of something known as the default mode network. We just default to that belief. Why? Because we have enough references to say this is true. This limiting belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too Asian or Caucasian. Somehow we have information and experiences that says this is real. So
we're operating from that automatically.
We're operating from that automatically. But what does that really mean? What it means is not only does it affect what we do or don't do, but it affects the lens by which we're seeing the world. We only see the world through the lens of our empowering beliefs or disempowering beliefs. Yes. So imagine if you had a lens, whether it's on your camera or on your glasses, and all of a sudden you put a coating on it to take out all the blue light. You're not going to see the world the same.
Yep.
All the blue light is gone. Well, limiting beliefs or empowering positive beliefs do the exact same thing. If you think about a radio, and a radio is a good example. If you were on 98.5, Let's say there's rock and roll on that station. At 98.9, there might be classical music. At 99.1, there might be big band, okay, music. So I do agree that when you get aligned mentally and tune in to what it is that you want, you're in resonance with that energy field. And there's millions of frequencies, okay, all around us. So the first thing is, yes, get totally cleared, get totally on the station of what you want to achieve. That's step one. If you're here and there and here and there, then you're on a variety of different stations. And I totally believe that our brain emits a frequency based on our predominant thoughts and emotions, and it also is in a receptive state when you're practicing certain spiritual practices, or you're on that frequency and you're on that channel. So I do believe in that. That's called being in a resonance. But I do not believe for 1 second that while we're sitting here in this hotel room, okay, at the Encore Hotel, somebody's going to knock on the door and say, John, Nick, you guys just won $1 billion because we are in resonance. No, we have to participate in the process and do something to help create that.
We have 100 trillion cells in our body. I've had neck injuries, shoulder injuries, meniscus injuries. I've had ankle injuries. I've had injuries because I've always been pretty athletic. If you think about what is happening every time I breathe in, I'm breathing in hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, plus a whole bunch of other elements from the air. What do you think your bones and tissues and muscles are made of? I'm eating, let's say I'm eating a protein, whether it's tofu or a piece of chicken, right? I'm eating a protein that is making muscle. I'm eating fat. I'm drinking water. We are made up of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon mostly. And so every 7 years, we're making a whole new body. Our eyeballs are different. Our skeleton is different. Our brain is not the same cells that were in our brain 7 years ago. Our lungs, liver, heart, tissues, nothing is the same. And so if I am visualizing, if I am meditating, if I am seeing a new healed bone, if I'm seeing a new healed part of my being, is it possible that I can direct some of what's happening in my body? And the answer is, of course I can. There are so many people that have healed, okay, from traumatic brain injuries, from back injuries, from tears and all that stuff. And so I absolutely believe that we can heal. So that is my opinion. And we are just starting to scratch the proverbial surface of what our potential really is, and it starts with our brain.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
The research that our neuroscientists and neuropsychologists provide us with is what drives behavior. What are emotions? What are feelings? What are the 6 core emotions that are processed at the non-conscious level that give rise to feeling? See, feeling is conscious awareness of what I'm experiencing in my body. The emotion of anger, disgust, shame, happiness, or fear is processed non-consciously. That gives what? An electrical signal that we feel. That's called feelings. And so what we're fascinated with is how are people processing information that gives rise to feelings, which then causes people to take action or not. So that's the kind of stuff I'm fascinated with. And then how can we help somebody shift their perspective? If you change the way you look at something, the feeling changes. So if you change the meaning, you change the way you look at something, the feeling changes. If the feeling changes and we help people put their foot on the gas instead of on the brake, then they're going to take action. And most people, I mean, if everybody's watching right now, they're thinking, why am I not doing, forget about learning anything new. Why am I not doing the things I already know I should be doing? So a salesperson you mentioned earlier, you know they should be prospecting. Why aren't they prospecting more? Like, why not? Well, it's because something in their brain has got the brake on. Why not discover why? Get your foot off the brake, take action.
So you may or may not know this story yet, but 10 years ago, I was 238 pounds, 33% body fat, borderline hypertensive, almost full-on diabetes, severe sleep apnea, not in good shape.
No,
and so I said, listen, you've done okay in business. You've done okay with your relationship. You're happily married. Great, this and that. Look at you. You're a physical mess. Yeah. And so words are really, really, really critical because there's something really important listening. And so if you're using words that you're reinforcing, if they're self-deprecating words, you're reinforcing a self-deprecating self-image, which means Frankenstein brain is going to be triggered by those words. So if you think about weight, what is it? Every pound is 3,500 calories of energy, right? And so when you think about what do you do when you lose something? What have we been taught to do when we lose something? Try and find it.
Go find it. Go get it back.
So if weight is energy, I said to myself, what do I need to do to release this energy back into the universe, back in the form of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, whatever it is, so that somebody else who needs it right now can use it? It served me long enough. I'm ready to release it and to change, my physique, to change how I feel, to change how I look. And my goal back then for my 50th birthday was to get into the best shape of my adult life for 50, which I did. And then my goal is to have a six-pack at 60, which I'm already there. So I'm actually almost there. But the whole idea was the words that I use, right, are really important because they're the words that I listen to and reinforce.
When we talk about the word fear, right? So let me start off with another little premise here is most people are highly ignorant in understanding what fear is. Now, I want to make sure people heard me correctly. Ignorance doesn't mean you are stupid. Ignorance means you just don't know. We're all ignorant.
We don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know, and even the things that we do know may not be accurate. So when we talk about fear, there are 50 different types of fear. All fear is processed in the subconscious mind. The automatic neurochemistry that is created as a result of the meaning that we give certain things that cause us to either be in a state of fear or a state of courageousness is all being processed in our subconscious mind. So what causes fear for you doesn't cause fear for me or for somebody else, or may cause fear in other people. So whether we're standing at the top of a building that's 100 stories high, some people look over and don't have fear, and other people do have fear. Whether there's a giant 10-foot boa constrictor in front of you may cause fear in you, that doesn't cause fear in another person. So it's never the thing that is causing the fear. It's the subconscious interpretation that we've been conditioned to believe. The meaning that we learn to give something determines whether the neurochemistry of fear is activated that causes us to feel a certain way. So the feeling, of being scared, the feeling of being uncertain, this feeling of having self-doubt, the feeling of having too much stress in our life, that is an effect, not a cause. So feelings are conscious, our ability to be aware of this stuff that's going on in our body that we either know or don't know how to handle or do anything with. So feeling is conscious. Fear is subconscious. And so if, for example, we have, One of the examples I use is, and you don't have this obviously, but if I ask 100 people, do you have a fear of public speaking?
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that.
I'm reading your mind. I'm reading your mind. Well, it's not your fear. And that's what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. So the actual fear is of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged. Mm-hmm. So if we're afraid of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged, that has nothing to do with the actual public speaking. It has to do with our self-image and self-esteem and what we think of ourselves and what we believe others will say or think about us, which will affect our own self-image or self-esteem.
Let's say you have something that you want to do, a project you want to finish, a book you want to write, a business you want to start, a girl you want to call or walk across the room, or a guy. You want to achieve a goal, okay? So if you imagine that when you set your goal, you're activating the left prefrontal cortex, which I like to call is the Einstein part of the brain, the part of your brain that can say, what can I imagine? Well, I can imagine myself achieving that goal. I can imagine myself making more money and living the lifestyle of my dreams. I can imagine fill in the blank. So you set the goal. So part one in the brain is setting of the goal, having that vision for what you want.
We know up until about 20 years ago, scientists believed that we were hardwired. So we were born, we had certain genetic propensities. You're like your mother, like your father, like your grandparents, and then you became a little bit like you as a combination of both of those and your experiences. Well, the science was wrong, right? We just have learned a lot more in the last 20 years than we've known in the last 480 since we began science. And so the science of neuroplasticity shows us that we're consistently creating new connections. But to leave it at that is not very useful. So the question is like, so what, right? So what's a new connection? Like, what's the big deal? And think about this. What baby was ever born with any beliefs? None. What baby was born with any habits? None. What baby was born with any prejudices at all, or racist, ideas? None. What baby was born with any perspectives or paradigms or habits? None. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is a baby is born with about 100 billion cells. So think about 100 billion cells like you would 100 billion marbles. And every time, a lot of marbles. Yeah, so a lot of marbles, right? That's why you lose your marbles. So every time the baby heard something, saw something, felt something, experienced something, these marbles made connections in their brain. And that's called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new connections. And it's doing that every second of every day. And by the time we're, 3-4 years old, we've gotten a lot of these neural connections, these beliefs and habits and perspectives from our caregivers, our parents, our brothers or sisters, how they treat us, how we feel. And so we develop these connections, from 0 to 3-4, the imprinting years, and then we have the modeling years where we're modeling our parents from, 2.5, 3 to 5, 6, 7, where we're dressing like them and trying to put on their makeup, which I did too. And so we're modeling now, and then we have our experiential years where we gain some of our own experiences, and we are creating these new connections in our brain that become our map of the world. Here's how the world works. White people are this, black people are that. When I put my finger in this socket, it feels really bad, so don't do it more than once. When I eat this, I like it, and when I see this, I laugh, and when I do this, it hurts. And so we develop this model of the world, and we develop our beliefs about money, about relationships, about career, about travel, about food. We develop all of this stuff, by the millions and millions and millions of connections every hour. And then it slows down after we're about 10 or 12 years old. So we have this map, this road map of reality. And based on our parents and caregivers and grandparents and teachers and television and whatever we experienced, some of that map is accurate, And some of that map is not. Some of those beliefs are accurate. Some of them are not. Some of the habits we developed are constructive and some are destructive.
Yep.
Right? But from a neuroscience perspective, they're nothing more than just connections between one marble or another. Now, here's the good news, great news actually. We can deliberately create our own connections now, because we know that this science of neuroplasticity says that if we take, let's say, an affirmation, I'm so happy and grateful that I am more and more confident each and every day. So it may not sound real initially when you say that, but that's because you've said it one time and the connection is weak. But if you said that 100 times or 500 times or 1,000 times, and then you felt it, and then you went out and did a couple little things to give you some confidence. Let's say you're shy, and you just went to, I don't know, a coffee shop, and you just smiled at somebody and nodded to them. Didn't have to say a word, just smiled and nodded, and they smiled and nodded back, and you go, oh, wow, that didn't hurt. They didn't hurt me. They didn't say anything bad about me. They didn't embarrass me. They didn't try to shame me. They didn't try to make me feel guilty. And if you did that enough for a day, a week, a month, 3 months, all of a sudden you'd be inner-sizing your self-confidence muscle. And the shyness starts to go away a little bit at first. And then it's like, wow, this isn't a dangerous place.
Have you ever considered that imagination, creativity, logic, focus, concentration, self-esteem, self-worth, tenacity, resolve, have you ever considered that those are neuromuscles? We have biceps, triceps, shoulders, chest, buttocks, muscles for your physical body. Have you ever considered that you have neuromuscles? Have you ever considered that creativity is a neuromuscle that you can utilize?
One of the first things that I learned at a thankfully enough a young age through my mentors was failure is just feedback, and separate you as a human being from what you've tried that fails. So don't connect if you fail at things that there's something wrong with you.